Alchemy is about transforming a base material, a base metal, into something absolutely, precious. So she was happy to transform the clay of the earth around her into something really beautiful. In 1965, when Kilkenny Design Workshops were up and running, she was invited to come and to train young ceramic artists in Ireland. She was 32 when she came here. She had shown with the Amsterdam Six. She got a scholarship to the Musée de l'Homme in Paris. She was really interested in the history of mankind in anthropology, and that proved to be a lasting interest for the rest of her life. It really fed into a lot of her work. She grew up in Holland during the war. Holland was blown apart during World War II. So I think she was coming from a landscape that was very dark and marshy and a lot of wet land and flat land. As soon as she came to Ireland, she just drew everything she could get out of the landscape. The colours, the shapes, the dyes that she used in her patinations all came from her knowledge of the landscape and the chemicals in the water and bog water, things like that. Sonja was experimenting with batiking colour onto her pots. She introduced that technique to Ireland and was one of the pioneers of it in Holland and Denmark as well. You get a depth of colour and a build-up of pattern and glaze, and you can see that if you look into any of her pots. It's like looking into, bog water or something. There's depth in it. It goes right down to, the far distance. Barry always talked really glowingly about Sonja. I think he was the person who compared her first to Lucy Ree as one of the great European ceramic artists in the 20th century. She used very dark glazes or very pure white glazes, but she made pottery of a thinness. The walls of her pots would be so thin. That's something that Sonja could also do. This little batiked pot is just incredibly fine, and it has what's usually described as a flared edge. It flares outward. Now, to support that without any of it breaking in the kiln, and indeed through the years afterwards, shows that it's really all of a piece. It emerges naturally, that shape, out of her handling of it. It's really beautiful work. She wasn't like other potters in Ireland because she didn't work in series. And it is what makes each piece absolutely special, because there is no other one like it. She collected stones that had different kinds of minerals. She collected them because they were beautiful, because of the shape and feel of them, which she replicated in her little seed heads, extraordinarily beautiful little objects that are like a stone you hold in your hand. These things were so smooth that they never snagged a person's skin, or they're just a joy to hold, and full of a kind of life-giving force because they come from nature. And she saw that in all the organic things that she collected. She particularly made them when her sister had terminal cancer and was so ill and weak that she couldn't really do anything. And Sonja made these things that her sister could hold in her hand. Around the year 2000, she had a shelf laden with pots ready to be fired, and some unfortunate visitor tipped the shelf and it all collapsed, destroying all of the pottery. The lucky chance out of that was that Anne Mulrooney, herself a sculptor, suggested to her that she take the basic forms and convert them to bronze. The bronze picks up exactly where she left off with the clay work. The bronze forms evolve out of forms that she had been making in clay in the 1990s. So now she's making additions, but she took care to change the patinations from one firing to another so that every piece still has something unique about it. To make the range of patinas that she had previously used in her clay, to carry some of that range into bronze meant inventing new chemical compounds that would work. Sonja was up for all of that, and you can see in the work that she produced then in these big relationship pieces that are sort of protectively locked together like dialogue, where you get two pieces almost as if they have their arms out to embrace each other, talking to each other. She began to really exploit the fact that these were now fine art, and she put them into the RHA as sculpture, and of course carried off prizes in the RHA for her sculptural works. One of the pieces, a horned bronze piece, where the bowl has become a kind of demonic, strange creature with little horns on it, but it bears no resemblance to any actual creature in the real world, and yet its connection to nature and to organic form is still very real. Seamus Heaney referred to some of her forms as hosannas ex furnace. You know, hosannas are hymns of praise, but hymns of praise that come from the furnace. It's a remarkable term to use. I don't know if Seamus Heaney was composing himself creatively in Latin, or if that is a recognised term in Latin that he used, but it just couldn't be more appropriate for her work, and that applies whether it is clay or whether it's bronze.